The good thing was that just a just a few days ago, last Sunday, I actually ran into Jeremy Corbyn. They're actually out and about, actually promoting, knocking on people's door, telling them to vote for him. He's actually an independent candidate, and he likes politics so much that, you know, he continues. He's been doing it, I know, for at least 30 years. And do you know what? When Tony Blair was actually in government, I went up to Jeremy Corbyn. You know, you see him on the street and stuff, and I said to him, it doesn't matter which government that he's in, whether it's Labour or Conservative or SDP and Conservative, Jeremy Corbyn is always in opposition. And it just reminds me, typically, he's back to his old form, you know. So that's Jeremy for you, politics through and through. And it's good to see him doing that with all the energy and all of his followers and the different people that are volunteering to help. He's my local MP. He's a local MP in relation to Finsbury Park. So I give him my blessings. You know, that's right. We've got that. The last podcast I did, I had the last podcast I did, I had the larger poster. Sorry, I had to go and double check some of the equipment I got there. Got to make sure all of it is working at the same time. But yeah, so Jeremy Corbyn is up for he's campaigning to be part of the local MP for Islington North. The Finsbury Park area is part of his patch, his constituencies. Every now and then, from time to time, you actually see him up and down in Finsbury Park, you know, so you can say hello to him. Sunday I saw him about 3 times. Alright, just back to a date check. So today is Thursday, the 20th of June 2024. Time now is about 2 p.m. Temperature is about 22 to 23 degrees, nice and warm, summer outfit. The location, we are here in Finsbury Park. Finsbury Park is in North London, and North London in London, United Kingdom. There's a London in Canada somewhere. There's Londons all over the place. There's London Road all over the world. So, you know, so that's the location there. Right, yeah, so we're in the midst of the whole political process here in the UK. We've got about 14 days to about, it's around 14 days, around 2 weeks time, we'll be going to cast our vote. The latest thing that happened today is that the Conservative Party, not only was there a police officer who was in the special protection for Rishi Sunak, the current Prime Minister, Conservative Prime Minister, and not one but 2 Conservative MP have been, let's say, indicted for inside information, because they've used the information that they've gathered for, they actually put a bet on, and the betting people actually said, called the police in and said, this is foul play, this is inside information, and just double checking down there, and this is it's foul play, inside information, and it's a crime. So the police officer and both of the Conservative, I think they're both MPs, or they're both Conservative, well, one is definitely an MP, have been suspended. Right, so we're in this great political time. Coming up the rear end is actually another person called Nigel Farage. with a reform party. For me, Nigel Farage is today's version of Enoch Powell in disguise. When you talk about right wing, what does right wing actually mean? From my point of view, it means you've got racist tendency. If you go over to Europe, Macron has actually decided to call a very fast election for France, because the right wing is actually gaining a lot of momentum. What they're all about? They're all about getting foreigners out. They're all about othering other people, but they're very sophisticated in how they're doing that. They in fact getting the same people who look like the foreigners to actually tell you that the other foreigners are not welcome. The other foreigners are taking all the stuff you're supposed to take, you're supposed to have. But what it is because of the mismanagement, right? The parties, the governing parties, is because of the mismanagement that they've got all these problems. Why the locals can't get hospital, they can't get schooling, the courts, the prisons, every aspect of government function is actually malfunctioning. It's not working properly. It's overloaded, and one of the reasons why is because all of those people from the G7, G7 nation, tells their people all the time. It was from 2008 when we had the banking crisis and we had the crash, and from that point up to now, year on year, everybody have said to all their departments of government or services, you have to cut back. You have to cut back by 10% every year. Right now, all of these departments, and one of the biggest one at the moment is National Health, has been cut back so much. They've been cut back to the bone that they can't cut back anymore. But the other trick is that they don't actually increase the payment to any one of the organs of the state. They don't actually increase the payments with the cost of living. They will say, oh yes, we increase it from last year, we've added a couple of billions. But what happens is that every 10 years the price actually doubles, right? Your wages double, the cost of your rent doubles, electricity doubles. The thing about the utilities, they've found ways over the last 10 years, all of the utilities have found ways of this thing called standing charge. Whether you use the utility or not, you still got to pay a charge for being connected. So every year, year on year, they find ways of increasing their profits, right? Your cost now as a consumer goes up, right? So if you got one of the jobs working for the government, your money doesn't actually go up with all these costs. In fact, it goes up by a couple of percent, but the whole cost for that year may be 10%. The following year, it doesn't go down from 10%. Another 5 or 10% is actually added on it. It never goes down. So when they tell you things are going to get cheaper, it never does. And tell me what has, right? So in every 10 years, everything doubles. But the government been lying to people, right? Or telling you it's going to get cheaper. Vote for us. We are governing properly. We know how to allocate funds. We are fantastic managers. Wrong. That's why you're in crisis, right? That's why you can't get what you're supposed to get, whether it's the NHS, whether it's education, whether it's policing, whether it's the judicial system. Look, a couple of days ago, I was passing the unemployment office. The people who actually work for the unemployment office was actually out on strike. A lot of the people who work for DHSS is actually on benefits themselves, right? So they are on a sort of minimum wage. So when prices actually rise, they don't they actually get poorer every year. So when the doctors and nurses ask that they want 35% increase, that is the real value, or that is close to the real value of what the increase should be. And they are due to be out on strike during when we are voting, and there have been calls for them not to strike. And even they have year on year cutbacks, and the small increases that they get never covers the increase in prices. The great thing a couple of days ago, inflation is 2%, right? Now what does that mean? It means on average the prices are going to rise for this year by 2%, but it went up by 10% last year. So it's 2% on top of that 10%. Actually no, it's not even 2% on top of that 10%. Right? It's if you add that 10% in, it's 2% of the whole total. It's called compound. And this Western economic system is part of the whole problem. America, the G7, when they get together, it's about this European monetary system. One benefit of it is that anywhere in the world you swipe a credit card, it will clear, right? It will clear. The people who have a major hey, how are you? Just step right in. He's a bit late, but yeah. So the European, because of the European monetary system, that's why governments can never pay the bill. France is in a bit of a bind. Let me make sure, because this one's a bit closer. Can't even see. Oh, that's me. That's me over there, and that's you over there. Yeah, it's a tight one. That. Yeah, it's tight. No, that's all right. All right. Let's get Jeremy in there. All right, so that one. Yeah. All right. So the governments can never pay their bill. France has been not reprimanded, but the European Union has said to them.
I saw that on TLDR media on YouTube.
Because the debt, the GDP, the debt they have is more than the gross domestic product. France's debt is 113% above the GDP. But why they got told off is because they predict that the debt is going to be 134%.
And there are three big companies that would I can't, if I can remember. One was called something Fitch.
Yeah. Oh, they do the ratings.
Ratings.
Yeah.
Another one was called Standard & Poor.
Yeah.
And there was a third one as well.
Okay.
I don't know. Are they part of the IMF? They're private companies that work for the. Do they work for the IMF or?
No. The IMF again is a different body connected to the financial system. But here's what. This is where we got to go and do some research and work, right? Yeah. So I've just touched the surface.
Yeah.
So, all right. So France's debt is right this time is 113% of GDP. Do you know what Britain's is?
Must be much higher.
No, Britain's is 96%. Right.
Lower.
No, 96% of GDP.
Of GDP.
Right. Now, can you remember? The last couple of governments were saying that we are going to cut down on the debt and we're going to cut down on the payment of the debt.
Oh, Osborne?
Osborne, there you go.
Right. Bringing in austerity. Osborne and Cameron.
Right. The debt hasn't gone.
Duncan Smith.
Yeah, the debt hasn't gone down. The debt has gone up.
Yes.
Right. That's why it's 96% of
like the
GDP.
like the undelivered hospitals on the side of the big red bus.
Yeah.
The funny man.
Brexit benefit.
Bojo promised on the side of the bus the Brexit benefit. The thing that fooled everyone. that nice little figure, and so the austerity wasn't for anything. It was just cruelty.
Yeah. Do you remember Bernie Madoff?
Madoff. He made off with all the money.
Yeah.
Madoff. Did he go to jail?
Yeah.
So is he still in jail?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a fall guy. Sacrificial lamb.
Maybe he stole from the wrong people.
No,
He stole from other rich people.
No, what happened? Listen, I think everybody's doing it, but it's like the pension.
But I mean really rich, big rich, not middle rich people.
No,
I
tell you what happened. Because of the economic crisis, some people says it's like the tide going out. Right? So it's now show your hands. You officially got to show your hands to the banker. And then when the tide's gone out, they realize he's not wearing any swimwear. He's butt naked, right? And a couple of people got caught out, right? And even the beginning of this year, we had 2 or 3 banks actually crash. They got bought out, right? That's because when the interest rate started to go up from like 0.1%, and it's now like 4%, people took all their money out of those banks and they put it in the banks that was offering them like 4%. So those banks were now in crisis. So the bigger banks actually bought them out, right? So it's a Ponzi scheme. Everybody's playing that game, right? And it's really a funny kind of financial game. But back to the news that you've heard about France, and you can relate to that without going in depth into the real sort of financial situation and stuff.
I also saw in the similar in the same video that
Spain.
Those debt companies, the private debt companies,
Go on.
ratings companies.
Yeah.
They spoke to the French stock market called the Bourse, and they started putting their money into London, which they would never have done before, because they're saying that in front they're scared of Le Pen's sort of victory. But really what it was is a reaction against Le Pen means that the far left are getting together and doing fairly well. And Macron's going down the middle ground, he's going nowhere, so that's their stability gone. And they are a little bit scared of the Le Pen instability, but what they're really scared of is the left-wing instability, because Le Pen isn't socialist, she's a capitalist, whatever she says.
Really?
And it won't. Yeah. She well, they promise socialist thing. It's called. To be anti-establishment, you've got to make some socialist rhetoric, haven't you?
Wait a minute. Is that sheep in wolf clothing, or is that wolf?
Sheep in wolf's clothing. No, yeah, sheep in wolf's clothing. Yeah. Sheep and wolves. Well, it's a kind of nationalism, economic nationalism, but sounds like socialism. But the thing is that what really scares them is that the left-wing parties are doing well now, and they're climbing up slowly. It looks like she's still going to win, but they're climbing up. And what they're really scared of is due to the backlash, they could actually do well, and that won't do them any good. But what they're saying in public is they're saying they're actually scared of the far right. But it's like the stock market in London pretending they're scared of Farage. Why are they scared of him? He's a merchant banker. He's a capitalist. But they can say he's scared of him.
We are in
because they might be scared of the backlash to him. Because if he might cause a very strong sort of socialist backlash against him.
Do you know, I believe Farage, one of his jobs was he was a banker.
Yes, of course.
And I've seen him in lots of financial adverts.
I'm not sure. I'm not a merchant banker or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a banker. He's part of the system.
Part of the system. Oh yeah, and you just need to look at some YouTube, and you'll see him talking about
selling advertising.
Yeah.
For the financial services.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was in before.
The Tory party that he says he doesn't like and wants to destroy, he was in for about 20 years or something, or 15 or something in his early days. But you know, he because of his big ego, he couldn't play second fiddle to anybody. So took over this nationalist grouping that was a bit right wing, but it was nationalist, but it was anti-EU, but more sovereignty anti-EU, and he took it over and turned it into a kind of racist.
Wow.
Anti-EU party. He took it over. It's called UKIP, and Alan Sked, and he took it over. You know, Alan Sked's still very bitter about this, but there's nothing he can do about it. He kind of took it over, and then he's pretending to be the anti-establishment, as all the sort of 1930s bodies try to do. They're you know, he jumped on that. You know, he was a. But it's funny, he's played in and out of the Tory party, in and out, and now he's making a play to be part of the new Tory party with the Brexiteers and
after the death of
after the death of the Tory party, which he wants to destroy to then reform it as his Tory party.
Now keep on speaking. I just got to cover this little camera there.
So none of them are anti-establishment.
They are establishment.
Establishment.
And what you heard that? What is it I heard about Boris Johnson coming?
Is he coming back? What's he doing?
No. Very cleverly, he's done another clever one.
Okay.
He was going to come in to help the Red Wall and that, but I think he knows he's not popular because of Partygate.
Okay.
And he must be quite scared, and he's done another hide in the fridge type thing, and he says he's going to go on holiday with his family because he's got a nice little number. Daily Mail, speaking tours, lots of money coming in. So why would he spoil that?
So what do you think? What do you think his strategy is?
Popping up, showing, and then going on holiday. Is there a gameplay there somewhere?
No, I don't think he wants to go. I think he's got plenty of money, and I know he knows his days are numbered. I don't know if Farage took over, maybe Farage would give him a job. Make Britain great again party.
Yes.
The Marber.
Yes.
Because that's what Braverman and what Jenrick and you know, like the sort of like far extreme Brexiteers want, isn't it?
So tell me how that play is going to work out. So the Conservative Party is going to be annihilated, and then Farage is going to what? Step in through the back door?
He's going to be the hero. Yeah, he'll be the hero. Because what he's saying, right? Do you remember when he said that the Rwanda idea is a silly idea?
Yeah.
And he's in a very populist way, but he's not going to the Rwanda flights at all. In fact, he likes them. What he wants to do is to make them possible, right? By getting rid of the European Court of Justice and making it sort of the international, and make it more possible. But he's saying he plays funny games. He speaks from two sides of his mouth.
We're talking
but it looks like, but people seem to just say he's very honest because he's aggressive, and being aggressive people often sound like they're being very honest because they're being very aggressive. But if you look at any very, very good Hollywood actors, they can actually, some of them are excellent as playing rough, aggressive characters. And of course, it's what they train to do.
Kara. Yeah. So what do you think the current situation is? How is the vote split up, you reckon? You know, is there such a thing called white van man? Is there such a thing called?
So yeah, these are made up ideas. These are stereotypes, right? You remember a long time ago they started flirting with this idea of the white working class.
So what?
Which is nonsense. Working class are working class. It's an economic idea. But suddenly they started flirting with this idea, thinking on Trump's sort of victory. They all start flirting with this kind of populist idea. It's part of the populism, isn't it? That's you know, that is sort of a national or socialist nationalism.
Hang on, I just checking. Yeah, we still got a red light. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how is Trump doing at the moment?
Seems to be doing well. I don't know. Seems to be doing well. Wait and see. Seems to be doing well. I mean, people. It's funny that seem to be doing well in Europe too. It's hard for me to understand it. I don't know enough about it, but they seem to be doing quite well because they've stolen the socialist clothes, and yet for people who are basically working class conservatives who are quite comfortable with their brand of sort of economic sort of Keynesianism, or at least they pretend it is, and then social conservatism, because that's what sort of floats their boat. They floats their small boats. You know, things like, you know, the racism, basically. That's the main plank. See, what makes the right and the far right who they are is the racism.
Yeah.
Because you can't tell people you're just going to be in poverty and doff your cap forever and just accept it. But when they throw racism into the mix, they throw a hand grenade in. They just, you know, basically they show something which has been enormously historically successful. You know, the fear of foreigners.
So George Galloway was asked, how would he solve the migration problem? Because that is one of the biggest selling point of this current election.
That's interesting.
At the
Please
moment.
tell me. What did he say?
What did he say?
I didn't know. I'd love to know.
The British military assets, which is the Navy, are currently all over different places, like the Middle East and the Gulf of opposite Iran and stuff, because the perceive and shooting down missiles that are fired from that Bahrain area over to Israel.
Yemen,
fired from Yemen, right? So they're all over there, all the assets. And he says, well, doesn't Britain pride itself of having the best navy in the world? The answer is yes, right? So why is it none of the navy is off the shore of England, between England and France, stopping a very simple task of a few minuscule boats compared to this big mother of a size warship?
Maybe if an aircraft carrier like the Ark Royal got stuck in the channel, then basically people could actually walk from Dover to Calais using it on the deck, and it couldn't be moved like the ship during lockdown that got the tanker that got stuck in
blocked Suez Canal.
It would block it. Those ships are very big to go through that Suez Canal. I don't know. I'm guessing. You've thrown me a curveball, and I've thrown a curveball back to you.
No, that is very true.
It seems very, it's a little canal.
That is very true, because if one of those aircraft carriers was parked in the channel there, on both sides, from the English side, you could actually see who's actually on board.
But it's also slightly tongue-in-cheek because I don't think that they're really that interested in the small boats. It's more of a if they really wanted to stop it, they do what the SNP and Green parties say, and they go back to having safe routes, and they get rid of the backlog, and then they have more civil servants dealing with the backlog. They actually like the backlog. They like to have this perpetual problem because it helps with the populism, doesn't it? Perpetual problem.
Does. Yeah.
You know, if they want small boats, they create them.
And why
they get actors and they pay them, just like Nigel Farage, Vote Leave. I mean, got this out of work actor. I think he was from Ireland, right? To sit down with his legs crossed. So the white guy was with a building hat on, with the short shorts and that, right? And he was. I can't remember exactly what it was about, but it was something to do with the vote leave. It was to do with having. I don't know what it was about really, but I remember it was a racist theme or we are broke theme or something. I don't know, but somehow I remember, and finding out it was quite artificial. Right,
and back to the migrants. Look, And back to Netanyahu and back to the.
Most people are not bothered about migrants at all. If they weren't mentioned again, no one would think about them.
Can somebody tell the British government and the American government to get ready to take the Palestinian people who are going to be exiled from their land? Can they get ready to get these migrants who are fleeing war in Gaza, which they're supplying the bombs and the guns and the technology? Are they ready for these immigrants to flood their shores? Because if you're giving somebody else the bomb to bomb their place, right? And this is the reason why we have migrants coming in both. Because Britain has
as well as a climate catastrophe,
right?
And as well as the poverty caused by the IMF,
right? Yes, add that to it.
So add it to all. But the primary problem with what are called asylum seekers rather than the other migrants, right? That's whose stories I'm certainly not running them down, but stories are more complicated. But the actual asylum, and according to international law, asylum, right? Which was proposed after the horrors
and
of the Second World War. Asylum is people running away from war.
And who was one of the major advocates of those rules?
Winston Churchill.
Exactly, England. Yeah.
England. I think he helped to set it up, and it's not a European thing; it's an international thing.
Yeah, and that
set up by the Allies.
And that is why Britain. The British people being fooled. I'm going back to the Santa Claus thing, and I'm going back to the Tooth Fairy. That's why the British people are being fooled and saying, look at those migrants. But due to international law, which Britain helped to set up, they have to accept it. But no one's telling the British people that.
Nigel Farage, right, has studied, right, what's culturally useful to him. So he wears an Armani suit that makes himself look respectable, and he has a cigarette and a beer to make himself look like man down the pub. Because in England, the pub has taken on a certain kind of characteristic and certain meanings, right? Now, in America, he would never try to do that in America. He might wear an Armani suit, that would go down quite well. But having a fag because it's a much more Puritan society, more evangelical, he'd really upset the evangelicals by having a pint of beer in his hand. He'd go down very well with the Klansmen, you know, in Dixieland. He'd go down with the Geezeroids, the cowboy Geezeroids, right? But he would upset the biggest base of all, the evangelicals, Christian fundamentalists. Yeah. So he wouldn't do it because he's a charlatan. It's a concoction. So it's made to look a certain way. It's not studied. It's not thought out. People similar to Jeremy Corbyn, who've actually told people consistently, you know, things that they've learned and read about, that are given a short shrift because a lot of people don't want to hear it because it doesn't sound comfortable.
Now he tells them what they need to hear. But here's what they don't want to hear.
No, they don't want to hear it.
Because
they want to hear it. They wanted to hear what Johnson had to say.
Yeah, they want things which is oven ready.
Oven ready.
And how did that meal turn out?
I think they spat it out, especially after with prosecco. I think once the prosecco hit their lips, they spat it out.
It was a disaster. It is a disaster. And which party has blatantly said they're gonna go back and renegotiate and join? And they're using it as a campaign feature.
Lib Dems?
Lib Dem. And what is Starmer saying?
That's consistent. Starmer's, I don't know. No, I don't know. Starmer just says we want change, and that's what he said. And we cost it. And Starmer uses a mechanical. Everything is very mechanistic and simple slogans that he will not go off script about the things that his spin doctors have told him to say. So he just kept using the word change. He'll say he won't go back to the EU because he believes this magical red war that has been created for him to believe in, right? Even the Tories don't believe in the red war.
Well, weren't they the ones who created it?
No, no one created the Red Wall. The media, Murdoch's media created the Red Wall. It was a creation because lots of poor and desperate people in the deindustrialised parts of northern England and Wales, South Wales, and the Midlands, right? You know, obviously with a strong flavour of the race card put into it, were actually, you know, fed this, you know, and I mean Robinson and his sort of anti sort of Asian campaign. I won't use the words because I mean, we all know what's where it came. A very, very nasty sort of thing about, you know, like grooming gangs and what have you.
Yeah.
And all. So you add all these up together. So right, and it was a concoction. So this Red Wall concoction, because how the hell can people that live in Yorkshire just be more naturalistically more bigoted than people in the more liberal Surrey and Kent, the Blue Wall? That's another creation, Blue Wall.
Well, what is that? What, as you said, Starmer and his advisors are telling him to keep it simple.
After all, if there was a Red Wall, it would be still there now.
Yeah.
And if there was a Blue Wall, it would be still there now.
Yeah.
But both of these places are anti-Tory. How's that? So it must be an artificial creation.
It is. It's a construct.
Yes, they've gone into the television studio and seen how it's been made.
Yeah.
A lot of working class people have actually realised what they've gone behind the EastEnders and Peyton Place and that, and they've seen how it was made, and they said, that's nothing. That's artificial makeup, and that patronises us. We don't live like that. Hello, mate. Get out my pub. Come on. Let's have a pint up there. Here, get in your white van. Yeah, we're foreigners. Yeah, they're all different from us.
Yeah, but here's what a massive part of the British public actually believe in that.
Oh yes.
And when you go back to Starmer and the simplicity of his message, that gives me a reflection on the British public. The British public that fell for Brexit. And now
what was he doing going to the Telegraph and saying how much he loved Margaret Thatcher?
Who's that? Cameron?
Smarmy.
Who's that?
Smarmy. So Smarmy did.
Okay.
You remember when he became his patriot and he wants to win over the Red Wall?
They hate the Red Wall hates Thatcher. There's still legacies. Families are still not speaking to each other.
But it seems to be a complete artificial creation. So why did he go over there, right?
Well, let me use your...
Because in the future, he's going to... his lies will come back to haunt him. Okay, he's got a big majority now, like Cameron had, like Johnson had. But you know, what goes up must come down. I mean, in the future, you know, like he's got rid of lots of genuine Labour supporters, 20-year-long Labour supporters who've actually, and they're not going to go knocking on doors. He's going to have to, if he does send any leaflets around, he's going to have to rely on adverts.
He'll have to do it himself.
An advertising company. Yeah.
Well,
he'll everything will be advertising companies and media spin, and then he gets somebody to go on TikTok to speak to the young. Not like Jeremy Corbyn went to Glastonbury to speak to them. No, you do it through TikTok, and you just say things that young people, whoever they are, want to hear.
So there's a couple of
young people.
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting factors in this year's election. The photo ID. I think there's quite a few people, not necessarily in the Red Wall, but quite a few people who believe that they can do anything, anytime they want, who haven't got ID, who are likely voters of Brexit, right? Have you got? Do you know what their reactions is going to be?
I remember that many of the people that voted in that referendum based on the racism that was offered to them of Brexit and the magic formula of more council houses for sort of native white people, right? By getting rid of this dark sort of in this invasion. These same I remember seeing videos asking them why had they ever voted before, and many of them are people who'd never voted, and then they were swept up with the Johnson, but they weren't actually Tory supporters. They just liked Johnson, just like many sort of like country people like Trump. We like Trump, we like Johnson. He's just a nice guy on TV. He's real funny. He kind of, he's one of us. He drinks beer and he's one of the lads. He plays rugby. He's good.
So what?
So but you know anything about the Republican Party? No. Tory Party? Yeah. I'm not interested in that. I just like him.
Yeah.
But now, I don't like him anymore. So I'm gonna just do my own thing,
And if you're a woman, he can grab me there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but listen how the similarities with this populism. One of the things that Johnson got in trouble with first of all was not just this Tory MP who lost big time in the West Country, who was off in the Caribbean during the lockdown, and was like, he had a huge majority due to Johnson in somewhere in the West Country, and he was on trial for his corruption, right? And Johnson supported him. But the next one that Johnson supported was Chris Pincher, by name and nature.
Yeah.
And that blew him big time. So
that was the beginning. That was the beginning of the end. Have you ever heard this phrase? They say, "How do you go bankrupt?" And this formula applies to many things. It says very slowly at first, then very quickly. Yeah. Right. So what happened with Johnson? It started very, very slowly, then it went very quickly with Pincher. Pincher was like almost the final
straw.
Yeah,
but he also opened the Pandora's box, because there was a time when the Tories when the 70s or something, when the Tories went through their family values thing, right? And then they were outed, back to basics.
Yeah,
back to basics. And then suddenly there was all visiting sort of rent boys and having affairs with having affairs with secretaries and visiting.
That's back to basics.
Visiting sex workers and taking drugs, everything. So and then they stopped doing it, but with Johnson, they thought it was okay to actually start pushing this kind of populism, this kind of like little boy geezeroid populism of,
who was
the laddism. And now they push the laddism, but the laddism can also backfire, because after Pincher thought he'd get away with it, but then when he found that he couldn't, and he was seen for the despicable rat that he was, and he couldn't be protected, suddenly the focus, the light was shone on other members of the establishment who were abusers and horrible. And there's a lot of them, and they're mostly in the Tory party.
Who was that? Who was one of Mrs. Thatcher's favourite frontbench MP who got caught out with an affair, and then he had to resign or they sacked him, and then Mrs. Thatcher brought him back in? I don't think it was Baker. It was an old guy with, these ventriloquist dummy. It's usually of a posh with a monocle. He was almost typical of that kind of that image. Right. Yeah. So that kind of thing has been going on from, and if you go back to the Profumo affair, and and if you go back further still, if we go back to what's that royal scandal, the miss okay, oh shit, he gave up his crown, he gave us his thing to the throne.
Simpsons, yeah.
What's
the Simpsons?
No, not Simpsons. It was something on the Simpsons.
Yeah,
because he fell in love
Yeah.
And he had to give up the
I
crown.
think they were called the Simpsons.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah.
But his first name was something. The man's name, the woman's name was Simpson. Not Andrew and Simpson, but then look at Andrew. Prince Andrew, yeah. And Epstein, right? So these things have always been happening. But let me get back to what currently, because there's loads of things happening. Today's a crazy day. I mean, even in politics, right?
I tell you what, one reason I'm very happy, because it's the second day that I've actually visited my ex-job centre.
Okay.
And found and actually seen a huge noisy picket outside.
So did I.
Brilliant.
So did I.
Well, yeah,
so did I locally.
Locally, yeah.
Yesterday.
Well, mine was in East London.
Oh, did you see?
Yeah.
Department.
And the first one was what do they call them? Marks of vodka. The CPSA.
CPSA. Right.
And the second group, today's group, was the GMB.
All right. So it was the Department of Work and Poverty. Did you see the sign?
No, I didn't.
No, down there they had a sign. The Department of Work and...
So it's a national... Yeah, it has to be a national thing.
Well, they were there...
it could be up and down the country.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
They were there Tuesday.
That's
so it's
brilliant.
a national thing. That was the union one, right? So if it's the union, it's national.
But we've heard nothing about it.
I know.
In the news, nothing about it. This is very important.
Yes. And if you didn't walk
and when
past...
I looked through the window, there was nobody inside.
Yeah. And if you didn't walk past, and I didn't walk past there, we tell anybody, they'll think like we're...
But it's the same as when I pass colleges and or in front of Hackney Town Hall, which could well stand in for many other town halls, and seeing the Tentifadas, you know.
Well, tell us about it. Tell us about
the tented intifada, the tents outside of the town hall.
Right, tell us what it means, because a lot of people...
intifada, it means uprising in Arabic.
Yeah.
It's
so why are those people out there?
They're out there because they want to spread the word about the ceasefire and about the Gaza and the Palestinian suffering.
All right, we have to be like...
Terrible suffering.
Yeah.
And you've noticed it's been completely pushed off the media totally.
Yeah, look.
So today there was nothing about it.
Look, we have to be like Starmer, right? And even though we're having a complex conversation, we're still...
Oh, they're going to take your water away. Okay. No, I've got the right. I've got the right to drink your water.
Yeah.
To defend my right to let you starve.
Yeah. Right. So.
I'm not. It's okay.
Yes.
You know, no.
So we have to break it down in the most simplistic way, just like Starmer is, and tell people the reason why there are people outside of the town hall, because they're protesting probably every day and every night. They're sleeping out there.
But first of all, people who go past will be a little bit scared of them, thinking, "Oh no, Hamas," or they'll be thinking something scary, or they'll be thinking, Just Stop Oil, ranting.
Right.
But as time's going on, I've noticed more people have been joining in, visiting, and it's becoming a social thing. And in a way, due to the cost of living crisis and every going up being expensive, more and more people are going there as a social thing, but also finding they've got a lot in common.
Yeah.
When they do start talking.
So why they're doing it is because they're protesting about the war in Gaza, they're protesting about the people being killed, they're protesting about the arms that have been that sold
that
from
specifically
America
but also
and
when you talk to such people, you'll find that the connections like we have are very much bigger, because all of them have some different angle where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Injustice is the first angle, but then comes the different facets of it. Somebody can talk about the Palestinian problem. Somebody can come along and say, well, yeah, I was a soldier in Afghanistan, and I'm living in a tent, and I'm fed up. And then somebody can come along and say, well, I'm a Kurdish refugee, and we've just been thrown to the wolves. And
for helping the British no, not Kurdish. Sorry, I was thinking of where was it? Just behind Pakistan there. where Russia was fighting first of all now, and then
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan. Yeah, I'm thinking of the.
You even forgotten the name. Imagine that at one time you couldn't have forgot. The name would have been the first thing you said. Yeah.
On the tip of the tongue.
The tip of the tongue.
Yeah. The Afghan interpreters and support workers who supported the British during their occupation down there in Afghanistan, and they were just left thrown to the wall. And funny enough, there is a percentage of Afghan on those boats who are trying to get to England, and this
Of
is
course. And yes, and many of them are well during the last flights, many of them were falling off the aeroplanes. They were trying to get there, and they were promised they would be given a place. And I remember British Army officers were saying, "Oh, how morals! I mean, people were forefront. I mean, real damn good."
and one of
and it's dishonourable that they should not be allowed, and now they're forgotten about.
And one of the most disturbing thing with that, there was just one special flight for the animals.
Animals. Carrie Johnson, and she manipulated that with some other, with an ex-army guy who's running a private company to make a bit of money out of it, and he was flying the animals out for Carrie Johnson.
And what's Carrie Johnson's position with Johnson at the moment? Oh, actually, you said his second name, Johnson.
Johnson & Johnson.
Tell the people.
Isn't that a baby rub?
Yeah, how many babies have they had together?
I don't know.
For those who've forgotten, Carrie Johnson and Boris, they're married, aren't they?
Yeah, and also, if they were MPs, they could get benefits for having more than 2 children. They could actually get a benefit. The 2-child benefit is not because of, it was not going to be lifted because of money and moralism and I don't know, sort of like whatever, you know.
All right.
Facelessness. But yeah, isn't it funny?
Yeah.
So everywhere we look is corruption.
All right. So let's kind of conclude today. So we've got the hottest days ahead. Not necessarily the hottest day, but the longest days, and then we've got the protest.
Okay, folks, it's time for you to go out and talk to people, and put down your phones and talk to people, and go down to Hackney Town Hall or any other protest and have a chat with people.
Is the protest?
Go down to Stonehenge and chat with people down there.
You see now you see. That's why they call me Baron, right? So I was listening to a conversation.
Because you can't have children.
I can have many children.
Or because you're lower than a duke.
Anyway, so I was listening to a conversation on some radio station today about why people were so offended by whatever they sprayed onto the stone.
Yes, it was indelible. There's a kind of ink that meant to rub off. Yeah.
And people was highly offended. But you see,
highly offended.
See, part of my things about the original belief and tradition.
Well, the Druids were terribly offended. In fact, they are the Druids are going to go down there with Tommy Robinson, right, at their head, and they're going to make an anti-Just Stop Oil protest. You know, this is terrible. Save our stones. This is monuments. Monuments have to be saved. After all, these monuments were created by God knows who, right? In whenever, thousands of years BC, and they stand for standing up. They stand for what they stand for, which is standing up.
Well, Stonehenge, right? In a general belief and tradition, that would be sacred ground.
Oh, yeah.
Right? With your belief and your tradition, with the Druids and
paganism,
right?
Pagans.
That would
non-believers.
That would be sacred ground. But what I found,
haram. Yeah. These people are non-believers, kafirs. These are.
But what I found,
these people want to destroy the civilization as we know it.
No, they're the original civilization.
Yeah, but they're the monotheism. You can't have pre-monotheism and be a good human being.
The original belief and tradition of England is those people that go down to Stonehenge.
Oh, you mean like Easter? It's called oyster.
Do you know,
Oyster.
up to about 10 years ago, they were actually banned from going down to Stonehenge on the solstice. There was two.
The Druids, yeah.
Yeah, they were banned. And it's only within the last 10 years, right? They've
Yeah.
lifted the barriers, right, and allowed them. Because all of a sudden, I think English heritage has realized your true heritage and belief and tradition is actually there. Not as many people say to me when I ask them the question, what's the original belief and tradition of England? And they say Roman Catholic. And I usually say, where's Rome? Right, so anyway,
Yeah.
so
I don't, it's trouble with all these people from Europe. They should go Rome.
but
Go on, go Rome, go Rome, go Rome. I don't mean Rome around the countryside because that's not allowed. That free, I don't mean that kind of freedom of movement, like roaming around the British country. No, I mean go Rome. You know, to that funny place with those, you know, in Thailand, Italians,
so why people?
darkies,
Yeah. So why a lot of people?
light-skinned darkies,
Yeah. So why a lot of people was
people that make pizza, pizza eaters.
innately
Come here, make your
offended
pizza.
is because they have realized deep down inside of them that is their ancestral sacred land. Basically, that is the British, no, let's say the English ancestral sacred land.
Anglo-Saxon.
Further back, the Saxons came from where? All right.
Germany?
Yeah. So what period?
Northern Germany.
So what period are you talking about?
Who knows?
Oh,
The ancient world, there was people moving
All the time.
The Angles
Yeah.
from Denmark.
Mm.
The Celts could have been from anywhere. They
Yeah.
moved up and down.
Yeah.
There was Celtish, right? You can see Celtish burial sites from Romania all the way to Ireland. So who knows where the Celts were everywhere.
All right.
Norway down to the south of Spain.
yeah. All right. So we can add the Roman Saxon, but that's the original belief.
Anglo-Saxons.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that the true patriots like to call themselves, Anglo-Saxons. They don't know what it means, but they like that word. Anglo-Saxon. It's
Yeah.
a bit like, you know, on the Sun newspaper, you know, on the corner, you've got to St. George and
But let me say something in relation to the people who go down there, the belief in the traditions and stuff. Remember, we got white witches and we got black witches, and they got the circle, and they cast spells.
I think the circle was basically created because agriculture was past the early Stone Age, after the hunter gathering, when people were beginning to live in settled agriculture, and I think it was an early sort of clock or compass that designated where the sun was, because they, like a sundial, like a very large sundial. I think so.
And remember, each section has the sign of the zodiac.
Yeah. And I think the spiritual significance was probably more into doing with the sun.
Yeah. So like in Africa, we have
And harvesting,
yeah.
harvest time.
So like in Africa, we have original belief and tradition. And then if I go back to Baron Samedi, right? The understanding of the original culture, casting spells,
Casting spells, yeah,
right?
casting
And medicine and thing. The Druids had the same. Also other sects who used it had
Well,
the
I
same.
think a spell is just a more mystified version of the word wish. I wish for something, you know. So you ask like children to
There's a word
wish
there.
for a present, or wish
Yeah.
that their parents like got better from a serious illness.
Mm.
So when they prayed, they were taught to put their hands together and pray.
No, that's a Christian thing.
No, it's a ritual. You know, they could be prayed like they could how they were prayed. They all around the world.
Sorry, my village.
Children all around the world, children have been taught to do some ritual, right?
Ritual.
Ritual, yes.
That's the word, ritual.
Right. So
Which would be different.
Yes, yeah. Now the prayer has got a cultural significance added to it. But basically, I'm just talking about etymology of words.
Yeah.
So basically, somebody has used a ritual and for something they wish to do.
Yeah.
So a spell, like casting a spell, sounds pagan and therefore bad. So praying is good. but casting a spell is bad. But the two things are the same, because if I cast a spell so that my mummy and daddy will get better, right? This is a bad thing because I'm casting a spell, right? But if I pray for my mummy and daddy to get better, this is a very good thing because I'm a lovely kid.
Yeah, that comes from being colonized by the Romans. By the Romans. And so your beliefs and traditions before, right, are like it actually is now. But what I'm saying is beware of those who desecrate the sacred ground, because that spell, right, that dance, that little thing will be focused upon you, and there'll be many people around in dark hoods, right? Right.
I'm beginning to get pain in my. As you're saying this, I'm finding it hard to walk. Right.
All right.
Can you say something? Can you take it away?
All right. Now this is more akin to Africa.
No, that's better now.
Right.
It's gone now.
This is more.
Use the magic word.
Yeah. This is more akin to Africa rather than Europe. There's a doll here.
A doll.
It's a representation of you. You have.
Listen.
You have desecrated.
Listen, I read this on the internet, right? Right. I read it on. This was some followers in Cuba, Santeria followers, right? And they were very upset. There was a man who ran the temple, right?
Yeah.
The Santeria temple in Havana or somewhere. And he was talking about stereotypes, and he hated the anti-voodoo stereotypes.
Yeah.
And he said nobody in Africa had dolls. He said, well, they might have. I don't know if they had dolls, but they didn't have the dolls as was seen in the Hollywood films, the plastic ones, right? They didn't have plastic dolls. They might have. I mean, everywhere around, people have made
from local materials. Have you seen African carvings?
Yeah, but the idea, right, of the idea of sticking the pins in the doll is actually to get a doll manufactured by Mattel or something in America, a plastic doll, and actually putting a pin in it.
So what happened to this preacher who said that?
No. Look. They didn't have pins. Where did pin making start?
Look, they're shut.
Look, pin making started in Gloucester. There's a pin making factory. I've been down there.
Have you heard about porcupines?
Adam Smith wrote about it. The pin making came with the Industrial Revolution. Yeah. They didn't have pins.
All right,
they may have had dolls, but they didn't have pins.
Have you heard about porcupines?
Porcupines, a kind of hedgehog, but with stronger spines.
And some of those spines are sometimes dangerous.
Yes.
You don't need pins. You just need
stab.
By the pine.
Yeah.
Right. Look,
But nowhere in the Yoruba tradition or the Vodun tradition, right, has people ever stuck pins in dolls.
Look, you can make a likeness of somebody, like a picture, and throw darts at it.
Oh yeah, you can do all sorts of things.
That's a manifestation of today's. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, back in them days, you could use a piece of wood, and you've seen many carvings, right? You could carve out the image of somebody, and you could either use a knife, you see a knife, and gouge out their eyes, and say, right, I hope that person will go blind, right? And you do a ceremony and a little dance, have a little drink or what have you.
I'm sure people have done this all around the world, and I'm sure even atheists do that, because when they're angry, they do all sorts of silly things, because people do silly things.
Exactly.
But it has no great meaning.
Oh, only to those who believe.
No, it has a meaning to the people who are angry and feel hurt.
Brexit has no great meaning, but only to who? The Brexiters.
The poor Brexiteers are now regret. They feel very sorry for themselves. The ones who are in cake shops, they can't get their cake mixture over from France and Germany.
But they believed in it.
They believe, yes.
Some people believe in strange things. So what I'm saying is actually beware of...
Lots of people believe in strange things.
I do.
I believe in strange things.
Me too.
Yeah.
Right. So beware of desecrating sacred pagan ground.
I believe in the redistribution of wealth. That's really strange.
Right. Because they will carve something and they get, forget about pins, they get porcupine sticks.
Porcupine stick, yeah.
Right, and stick it in. Right, and they'll dance around it a couple of times. And it actually, it's the worst time they could have ever chosen, because these are the longest days in the year, and it's significant to them. And that the reason why they're there, they feel they haven't, as you're saying with sun, the sun will give them power. They will pray to the sun god, right?
Quetzalcoatl.
Okay.
He was the sun god of the Aztecs. I think.
Actually, one of the podcasts we did, I did do a thing, inserts of some of the sun god.
Yeah.
Right. And these are the original religions: the sun god, the rain god, the river god, the fire god.
I must say they were very brutally. They had a very brutal religion, the Aztecs. I'm glad it's gone.
All right, that's over there.
Yeah.
But over here,
they still deserve to keep their gold, even though they were pretty horrible. Because it's theirs.
right? And if you go back to the original tradition, those who have offended our sacred ground shall pay. Right? So that's deep down. So what was done, they indirectly have cursed themselves to the Stonehenge, because it's sacred ground.
Sacred ground. Okay, fine.
Right?
Yeah.
Listen, I believe in stupid and strange things, so that's what I'm saying.
Okay, fine. Look. Why not? You know, I've got lots of friends that believe in different gods. I've got friends that call themselves agnostic, and they talk about a kind of spirituality, and it sounds like a kind of New Age sort of mixed thing. But I think one of the reasons they do it is because they don't really want to get the criticism that I've had for sounding very harsh and cold and brutal, and just, you know, being an atheist, you know. So I'm bang, and then, you know, you're just. I found myself just wiped out, and they didn't want that, so they said I'm agnostic, and they were so loud, and then they were they said spiritual things, and it sounds nice. But I call spiritual things social and emotional.
Let me cover a final subject now.
Because I believe that most of the things that we actually like are from us.
It said...
And if we were dead, those things wouldn't exist. Whereas spirit usually means something which exists if you weren't there.
See, in the Bible it says, after you finish worship, clear away any signs of the table and what have you. And it says, can you remember that passage that says, make no image of me, make no idol.
Graven image, yeah. Is it graven image?
As far as I can remember, make no image of me, right?
Oh, that's why in Islam you don't have pictures of people.
Makes sense. Oh no, and there should be no images of Muhammad. But back to the Christian. Almost every aspect around the world where there's Christianity, there's a statue of, what's it, Hail Mary, was it? Mary
Magdalene?
Is it? Yeah. There's a statue of, and they will come and they will pray in front of it, right? So, talking about an image or a doll, from applying it to somebody personally, cursing somebody personally, to an image of the great God, right? Where people will go to church and they'll pray in front of the, you know, and say the Hail Mary, you know. So, and that it's mainly, I think, in South America. In fact, there's a big image of Christ in, is it Rio de Janeiro?
Oh yeah. There's
in fact,
Redeemer.
It oversees the city.
Yes, oversees the city. Yeah.
But
famous.
In the Bible it says, make no image of me, right? And when you finish worship, there would be no sign, right? So that's what. Oh, right. So that's a good example of a massive image. But you know, every church, there are statues as you walk in, of, it was the Hail Mary. Anyway, there's a statue there, right? And people will come and they'll think in front of it and what have you, right? So talking about images and what have you, and so I will conclude on that. So politics. So finally, what do you, with Farage, with Johnson, with Starmer, and who else? And Uncle Tom. And you know who I'm going to vote for? The Raving Loony Party. Lord Such, who's passed away. And the Raving Loony.
What about Count Binface?
Oh yeah. He's picking up.
He got more votes than Britain First. Britain First man stormed out. He was very angry when he got less votes than Count Binface.
Listen, I'm gonna join Captain Binface. No, I'm gonna go for the Monster Raving Loony Party. Yeah. I'm gonna give them some real policies, some real good policies.
But I'm not gonna. I like fun like that, but I'm gonna add a little something to it, that because it's very serious about voting, I'm gonna vote for the Green Party because I think they're the real socialists, and I think one day we'll need all the left parties, because I voted for Tusk before, and I voted for other small communist and socialist parties, and I think they should one day all get together like they're doing in France, you know, when there's a very big threat coming up from the Faragists in the future, like Le Pen has done. So I think I think that the environmentalism is part of socialism. It's an important part, and I think it's and even though I like joking and that, I think it's very, very serious. What the climate crisis.
Well, are we still there?
And also, the Green Party will stand for ceasefire.
Well, it's about 2-3 weeks before the election, and every week before the election, when we do this podcast, and even after the election, it's going to be very, very interesting, because this is going to be a record of how we were thinking at the time, and how things have affected. So, it's goodbye from him.
And goodbye from him.